Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. All right, well, welcome to the Flagstick Podcast. Jeff Botter. As always, he is Scott McLeod. At least I think he's Scott McLeod.
I think I am.
He is Scott
I'm
McLeod.
not sure I feel like it today, but we'll get there.
The Flagstick Podcast brought to you this week by TaylorMade Golf, including the all-new QI35 drivers, TaylorMade Speed, Max Forgiveness, and the all-new level of fitting to give you more distance from more of the face. Get QI35 fit today and unlock another level of your game at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. Hope you're, well, we really do hope that you are following us across all of our social media networks. We think you are. Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. And subscribe, of course, to Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts. And encourage you, as always, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like us and click the notification bell to make sure that you never miss a single thing that we're doing on YouTube. We should. We're going to be starting some recording soon, aren't we? Yes, sir. We are. The latest.
Fingers crossed.
The latest edition of the Flagstick Academy instruction series at Castleview Golf Club.
Yep.
We got a big recording day coming up, and then that means that there's going to be a series of golf instruction tips for everybody on where flagstick.com and where else YouTube.
You got it.
So you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to talk about a few things this week on the show. Particularly we'll talk about the Canada's LPGA Tour event, the CPKC,
yes,
Women's Open. See, I got it in the first crack. I'm surprised that I wanted to accidentally call it what it always has been called in the past.
At least you didn't call it the CN Open or anything.
No, or the Du Maurier. Am I even allowed to say Du Maurier on
of course you are.
Social media? Is that a faux pas? There's some high-profile players, obviously. Not surprisingly, there's high-profile players, but we'll talk about that. It is a big event on the LPGA Tour.
It is.
We're also going to discuss some team golf formats. A lot of that going on lately. The LPGA Tour just finished one. Obviously the Ottawa PGA just finished one, and we'll talk about your exploits there, or your, I don't know what you call them, exploits or not.
Hey now,
and we're going to talk about something that seems to be becoming a bit of a problem in our industry, and it has to do with poor behavior at golf courses. So some incidences have occurred recently that have sparked the idea that we should have a conversation about that, and we're going to probably on the back nine today. So without further ado, let's get to our front nine so we can get to talking golf. Presented by Metcalfe Golf Club, a natural setting, a pleasant challenge. It's early in the season, and the course is in great shape, and I can attest to that. Book and pay online, save 10%. Popular game passes are always available, 10, 20, and 30 game passes. Plus, check out their event series for some fun tournaments. Lessons are available with their pro Nick Search. And as always, enjoy the great food at Hickory's Restaurant. Visit metcalfegolf.com for all that great info. Let me think. What do we want to start with?
Well, we got a couple of things happening in kind of the area before we kind of dig into the topics, if you want to throw that sort of out there. But you said you played some golf. You're actually
a little bit. I'm kind of like the 9-hole guy right now. I haven't yet to play an 18-hole round of golf. I'm banging out 9-hole rounds like crazy, which is, I'll be honest,
not bad.
It's not helping the index very much. Like I have been, like this is the craziest thing. I have been a 2.5 index.
All right.
For probably about 15 years. Now, the rule of indexes is if I remember this correctly, because it's been so long since I've read about it, it's the lowest 8 of your last 20.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's that now because things have changed. The world.
I'm pretty sure that the asterisks show that it's counting towards my index, my last 8 scores. Now, I don't have 8 scores in the last
See, but it calculates it for you now. It actually, I don't know the way it goes, and somebody can correct me, but apparently it used to be used to tape together the two nines, but it doesn't do that
No,
now.
now it's an
It project
algorithm.
it projects it out what you
Yeah,
would shoot for the
so
18.
it's
So,
really weird. I have scores that are being counted towards my index from 2016.
whoa.
Well, I don't have that many posted. See, the problem with me is all of the rounds, the majority of the 18 hole rounds that I play usually come in tournaments, like not individual tournaments, in scrambles.
Oh yeah.
But I
Okay.
don't post those, or they're
Of
in
course
some
not.
kind of weird format event or whatever. I don't, so my 18, I don't play. I think last year I played three 18
Okay.
hole rounds, and the year before I think I played maybe three or four full 18 hole rounds. And then sometimes I play and I'm hooping around out there. So, sometimes I'll go over and play 18 holes, but I'm like giving myself putts and I'm hitting
Yeah.
three or four
Sounds
shots. So I
sure.
can't count those either.
No.
So the only rounds I can truly count are the ones that I'm actually counting every shot in the hole and not giving myself putts and not rolling the ball around however I feel like it. Like I'm a fun golfer. Like you want to have a fun round of golf, play golf with me. Because I don't care what you do.
There you go.
As long as you're having fun. You want to hit three shots off the tee because you didn't like any of them, then go ahead. I don't really care. Point being, I don't play enough golf to get it like to count enough scores, so my index never changes. And then the problem is when I do play and I'm counting scores, all these 9 hole rounds at Metcalf, where it's across the street from my house, and I
Yeah.
always play the 9 hole course, and I always shoot in the 30s.
Hmm.
Like always. It's
Hmm.
36, it's 34, it's 35, it's 39, it's 38. Every once in a while, I sprinkle in a 40 or a 41 because I had a bad day, and my index doesn't change.
Right.
So
Yeah, because
I'm
it's based on your potential. The higher ones
right.
don't really
So
matter
am I
that
at
much.
2.5? I don't know really because when I play a full 18 hole round of golf where I'm counting my score, it's in a tournament, I'm usually firing up that 76 to 78. Well, that's not 2.5.
Yeah, it can
Unless
be. We're not
I
talking
suppose
about
it
averages.
depends on the slope.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what course I go to. We've talked about this. It
Yeah.
really doesn't matter what course I play. I
Yeah.
could play Smugglers and shoot 78, and I could
Hmm.
play um, Falcon Ridge and shoot 78, and I could
Hmm.
play. It doesn't matter where I go. It's the same score. I always
Yeah,
fill in my scorecard before I tee off, and then it's
you got to remember it's about potential. It's not about your average, and I think people forget that your scoring average can be wildly different, and you can have the same index. So, for each player, it's really about what the
I like to
potential
think
is for
that
the player.
potentially I'm a +6.
Well, well, there you go. You just
I
gotta
think that's
shoot.
my potential.
You just gotta shoot the numbers to
Eh,
prove it. So,
let's not talk about me and my beautiful 2.5. I just thought I'd bring that up because we're talking about me playing golf, and it's like,
yeah.
I've been playing, and my index never changes.
We'll get to my game when we talked about the
Oh
pro
yes, we will
pro.
get. Don't trust me. We're going to talk about your game.
But
Don't you make no
there's
mistake about it. We're talking
but
about your game,
there's goods and
and
bads though.
and DM there too.
Yeah, all right.
Okay,
Anyways,
so um, some local stuff. The junior golfers, which we love
yeah.
so much, are at Rita View this week for the Golf Canada's Next Gen Quebec Championship. So there's a series of these next gen events that
Yeah.
take place that are run by Golf Canada, and happens to be that the Quebec Championship is taking place at the Rita View Golf Club this week, and that's exciting because it's a great golf course and that
Hmm.
the juniors get to play, and that means also a lot of the local juniors will be
There's
participating in that one.
7 club members that are there, and I would
Yeah.
think close to 20 or so that are from the region. So that's good, and it's an opportunity that for them to qualify for the national championships as well. So
Yeah.
top 8 players and ties on both sides, boys and girls, get to qualify for nationals out of that. So nice opportunity, and good of Rita View to be hosting that one.
So now what's exciting coming up
Hmm.
is that the 62 teams taking part in the OVGA men's intersectionals. Now this is the crown jewel. Like I'm
Yeah,
telling you, when it comes to, I know we have a city and district, and we have the city and district match play, and we have a city and district
yeah, but this one's
OVGA
different.
Cup, and this is the pinnacle of the golf season. It involves so many players
Yes.
from so many clubs across the entire region.
Hmm.
all happening at the same time,
Yeah.
which is the most cool part about a team, this kind of team event, is that simultaneously all of
16 different
these,
competitions are happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
like there's a massive Ryder Cup style. I mean, but no, it's not really Ryder Cup style. It's a team event, but it's
Yeah.
the intersectionals is a match play style event where you have four matches going on all at the same time. Like it is exciting, and it takes place on one day, and by the end of the day we have winners for each of the divisions, and
Yeah.
we've been covering this. This has been going on longer than Flagstick, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Way.
But we've been covering this intersectionals since our inception in 1996.
So if you want to
So
put it in context or whatever, it's like draft day frenzy or
yeah,
free agency
free
frenzy.
agent
It's
frenzy
that,
is like a waste
but
of time.
no. But it's that kind of thing as far as it peaks. There's so many people that are, for the last month or so at their clubs have been trying to qualify for their teams, and this, it's a sort of team pride that get
Yeah,
to represent your club. And again, this is the men's one. We have the men's, juniors, senior men's, senior women's as well.
yes.
Coming later throughout the summer. But yeah, this is the big one. Ottawa Hunt is hosting the A division, and yeah, so it's a frenzy because basically that entire day, once the first results start coming in, we are nonstop, or at least I
Yeah.
am, nonstop on social media and stuff, posting, keeping updates, posting on our website, keeping updates. So we have a format that's up there, so people want to track it as the results come in. We get it posted on
The
flagstick.com.
intersectional tracker.
Yeah, it tends to be one of the ones that people are just refreshing all the time, sending us lots of DMs and so forth. So yeah, so good luck to everybody that's taking part of that
Yes.
on those 62 teams in the men's, and we look forward to publishing those
Pray for
results.
some nice good weather for
Let's hope
everybody,
so. Yeah,
and we don't need this. What's out here today on
yeah, it's just
Thursday?
overcast here, so
Yeah, lucky you. Okay, so that's intersectional. So yeah, get on that. Follow it on flagstick.com. It's going to be a nice, busy, fun weekend.
yeah.
Now, the CPKC Women's Open, they had a media day on Monday this week
Hmm.
at Mississaugua Golf and Country Club. Now, we are still about a month and a half away from the tournament, and this is the 51st playing of the tournament. And not surprisingly, it is
Yeah.
still a pretty big event on the up. So, it's kind of like this is not like when we announce stars coming to the RBC Canadian Open. It's
No,
big, it's
no,
significant because they don't come all the time.
right.
So, when we do get stars coming to the RBC Canadian Open, it's a big deal. When we announce stars coming to the CPKC, it's great that they're coming, but it's also
A little
I
redundant.
don't think
Yeah,
very many of them haven't come in the past. At least not the ones that I've been to. Nelly Korda, the top
yeah,
players are always there, especially
yeah.
when it's in Ottawa, because when it's in Ottawa, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, to the Mississaugans, I'm sure that it's a big deal, but when it's
Well, they
different.
haven't they haven't had it there before, so and they've had the World Junior Girls Championship. It's previously been a host for Canadian Opens. It was a big host for a lot of years. So having it in the city in Toronto, hopefully it's a big deal. But like you said, it's sort of yeah.
Toronto kind of dilutes everything, because it's
Unfortunately,
it's
yeah,
just so much goes on in Toronto at
right,
so many different. There's so much going on at any given time that there's an LPGA tournament happening at Mississauga. Oh yeah, well there's this happening down at the Rogers
right,
Center, and there's this over
yeah,
here, and there's this. Whereas in
right,
Ottawa, when there's the LPGA Tour tournament happening in Ottawa, it's probably the
right.
only thing big going on that weekend of any significance.
Yeah, it's like
So.
when they do the CPKC when they had it a few years ago in Regina. Obviously, it's going to be front page news because
Hmm.
there's just not of the stuff. Whereas it might get buried and further down the news and other stuff. And you're right. It was kind of funny because it was like obviously they're making the announcements and they're that's fine. They make the announcements and they have to try to make as big a deal of it as possible or whatever. But oh, Brooke is going to be there, and it's like, well, of course she's going to
Shocking.
be. Of course she's going to be there. So it's just like it'd be more shocking if she wasn't there.
Yeah, that would be a
Um,
bigger announcement. But that said, there are some key players that have already committed to
correct.
coming that they're talking about for example, world number one Nelly Korda.
Yep.
Um, her season this year as a world number one, though,
Not so
is
good so
she?
far.
Is she? It's kind of like how that world number that world ranking stuff carries over from year to year,
Correct. 2 year
where
cycle.
she had an exceptional year last year where we were always there was all of the marketing that was comparing the Scheffler Korda
Right.
sort of thing. Oh, she's winning every week, he's winning every week. Which one of them's going to lose first? Well, I don't know which one of them lost first, but I know which one of them's not winning much now.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that to be negative towards Nelly Korda. There is a
No,
ton
no, no.
of exceptional talent and a lot of parity on the LPGA Tour with that talent that
Hmm.
anybody can win on any given week. We're on the PGA Tour. At this point, it seems like, Scheffler's still the guy to beat no matter what tournament it is. Well,
Hmm.
unless it's the US Open, then he's not necessarily the guy to beat. But um,
I mean,
there's
she'll
some
still be a
great
big,
players.
yeah. I mean, Nelly will still be a big draw. I mean, because of that, that she, because of the attention on last year and, uh, every aspect of it, she'll certainly be a big draw. A lot of people will come to see her for sure. And you got to remember the LPGA is great as far as there's a loyalty with the fans, maybe a little bit more accessibility than maybe the PGA Tour, and
Hmm.
that's no knock on the PGA Tour, but it's just just the way it is. I think the players are a little bit more engaging sometimes on the LPGA Tour, and when fans want to come and see your world's number one and two, Gino Tidical, who won at Camelot World Junior Girls
Hmm.
Championship back in the day. I mean, she's number two in the world right now. She's already got a win this year, so
Yeah.
I don't know if she has the same resonance with the fan. I mean, she's with the fans, but maybe they're getting to know her a little bit better, and she's currently the leader in the race to the CME Globe. So, another one of the stars, and I know we're going to get to it right here, but we know who is definitely high profile as far as a Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, with Lydia Ko.
yeah,
Um, Certainly a resurgence of her career.
definitely. Yeah,
She was the top. She was at the top of that pile for a long time, and
right.
then kind of just, I don't want to say vanished, but her being in that position, maybe a little bit in some respects, a little bit like Brooke.
Hmm.
How Brooke was right up there. She still is relevant, but she's not
Hmm.
winning the way she was
Right. Yeah.
consistently. She's not top tenning and top fiving as consistent, she's not in contention as consistently. And Lydia was like that too. She kind of went away for a while, and then
Hmm.
now, she's rediscovered her game. She's playing extremely well. She's relevant in every event,
Yeah.
and that's
And she's a profile, right? She's got profile within the fans. I think the spectators know her. So
mhm,
obviously for the CPKC, they have to and she is a former 3-time champion. So they're going to lean into that. They have
mhm.
to lean into the faces that people know because just like the PGA Tour, not all the fans are going to know some of the best players in the world. Like
No.
no offense to a Lilia Vu who is obviously a major champion and number 11 in the world, but you can't necessarily just slap her face on a poster and everybody, generally fans,
Yeah.
hardcore fans are going to know who all the players are. But the thing is, with most of these events, especially to be successful, you're trying to appeal to a wider base of golfer who doesn't necessarily sit on their TV or on their social media following the tour and die hard, but they appreciate and they respect
Yeah.
it. So you have to really lean into those well-known faces, the Nellies, the Lydias, the Brooks for sure. And Brooke, obviously, she is the face of it, right?
Yeah, she's the big draw, obviously. I mean, you take players like Rose Zhang, that that's a
Mm-hmm.
number 44 player. That's not like one of the top players, but there's a players like Rose Zhang and Jennifer Kupcha and Minji Lee, Megan Kang. Those are players that their name has resonates with people a little bit
Yeah, I
more.
think so.
Rose Zhang, as an amateur, when she came in as a, turned pro and came in, she had high profile as an amateur.
Sure.
So that carried over. Whereas you talk about Lilia Vu or, oh gosh, I mean, any of them, there's
Jin Young
so,
Ko,
yeah,
obviously
there's so
a
many
major
that are
champion. Yeah.
not they've won. They're
Right.
top players, but the name doesn't resonate with people the same. So there's players that are not at the same level. There's players at top level, and there's players at the mid level, and the mid level players are probably more popular and more that resonate with people a little bit more than some of those
Yeah.
top players, and that's just the way the LPGA is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's some legacy stuff there as well. I mean, seeing it's been a
Brittany
while.
Lincecum.
I know exactly, exactly. It's like, she won this event back in 2011 and obviously was fairly high profile for a while. Went away, became a mom, but she's back to play in this event and whatever. So, again, it might not be a player that you're going to see at the top of the leaderboard,
Hmm.
but at least she's going to resonate with a certain level of fans. They're going to look out and they go, "Oh, I know Brittany Lincecum. I know who that is."
Yeah.
Where it's harder when it's up and coming golfers. It's kind of a two-edged sword for organizers sometimes when certain people win events, because it's like, you get them early and you can have them as your champion and you're, earlier in their career, but maybe they're not known as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, it's like, oh, okay, like, Megan Kang's a great player and she's fun to watch and so
Yeah.
forth. But and she won this event in 2023. It was her first LPGA tour win, I believe. And but is that going to drive ticket sales? Not necessarily. But at some point, she could be somebody who's won a lot more, and people are going back, going, I remember her. I remember watching
Yeah.
her play, and I remember watching her win. So I can remember Inbee Park. I, became one of the best players in the world. And I remember playing, it was one of her very first events. She played the CPKC back in, I don't know, '07, I guess it was.
Hmm.
And, you're just like, at that point, nobody's out following her. And then, a couple years later, everyone's following her. So
Yeah.
that's the other opportunity as well, is for people to go and see, up and coming players that are, definitely, going to do something.
Exactly. Now we do have some Canadians aside from Brooke that are playing.
Yeah.
Savannah Gruel is playing.
Yeah.
Elena Sharp is playing, and Motomie LeBlanc is playing. So there are other Canadians in the field. Brooke is obviously the highlight Canadian
Mm-hmm.
in that group. But in the past, players like Elena Sharp have played very well at the CPKC. So
Yeah.
it's not it wouldn't be surprising to see her play well again this year.
And it's
Um,
and it's going to be a big week for her. She's getting inducted into the Canadian Golf Hall of Fame that week, and they're also recognizing her for her Ontario Golf Hall of Fame induction as well. So, she'll have lots of friends and family around. So it's going to be a special week for her. Savannah Gruel, she's from Mississauga, so it's here her chance. It's only here. She's early on in her LPGA Tour career, so the chance to play in front of a lot of family and friends in her hometown will obviously be special for her. She hasn't had a great year so far, but who knows? This might be some motivation for her to play well and show off a little bit for her friends and family.
yeah. So now there are other Canadians that are getting an opportunity at the CPKC this year through the She Plays Golf Championship Series. It's a pathway for Canadian amateur golf talent.
Yeah.
Clara Ding, who's 14 years old, by the way,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and Shauna Liu, who's 16 years old, by the way,
Yeah.
secured exemptions and will make their LPGA Tour debuts at the CPKC in Mississauga this year. Now,
Yeah.
there is a final exemption still to come from the PGA Women's Championship of Canada. That will see yet another Canadian get an exemption into this event, and that's the last event of the series.
Yeah.
So with I guess about a month to go before the tournament,
Mm-hmm.
that will be the last opportunity for a Canadian women golfer to qualify through that series.
Yeah, they'll have the Monday qualifier, but as you said, for that part of the series, and of course they'll have some more exemptions and stuff that they'll announce as we get further on. Full field announcement will come on August 15th, just prior, but expect that there definitely will be some more Canadians in that field, and that's part of it as well. With Golf Canada running, the CPKC Women's Open and the RBC Canadian Open, there's that opportunity. They have those extra exemptions to get their up and coming players an opportunity to get their feet wet and to try out these events and get involved with them. And again, it's a way to bring more fans out and to see some of the up and coming talent that's here in Canada.
Okay. So there you go.
Yes.
CPKC, more announcements to come. Still a month away, but full field announced by August 15th. All right. Last thing, we got about 6 minutes here before
Perfect.
we have just enough time to talk about the flagstick.com PGA of Ottawa Pro
Yes.
um, tournament that was held at Eagle Creek
Mm-hmm.
just this past Monday. And this is a team format event, which will lead us into our discussion about team stuff, which we'll have to get to in the back nine.
Yep.
But
All good.
Scotty Mack and his partner Derek McDonald of Royal Ottawa once again teamed up to finish a strong, and I mean very strong, T15.
Woo.
I'm gonna say that's probably what, middle of the pack, bottom
30.
of the.
No, not bottom of the pack. There's a record-breaking turnout. So there was 34 teams in the main division, and yeah, we definitely had some struggles early on, and which is wild. We're talking about our golf. I literally had my best round of the year the day before, and I was like, all right, had 7 birdies in 10 holes, shot 68. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. Golf, and then golf happened, and then golf happened.
And a golf tournament happens.
Yes. And you know what? It was a case of, getting stung a lot by the format too. It's like, in when you're playing an event where, you're starting better ball and then you've got this modified Chapman in the middle and you've got to select other people's, drives, your partner's drive, and then play it in. You've got to get golf balls in play. And, at a golf course like Eagle Creek, it's like, man, if you're out of play, you are out of play. You're not. You're
Yeah, because
not
if you're
going in
in
there.
play, if you're in the field of play, if you're on the grass,
You're good.
then you're fine.
Yeah.
The Eagle Creek on the grass is good anywhere pretty much.
Right.
If you're not on the grass, then that means that you're in the trees, you're in the waste areas, you're
You're
in the
not finding
swamp, you're in
balls.
the
Yeah.
water, you're done.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's a stroke.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely a stroke. So yeah, so that puts you in in a tough position. And yeah, we had to basically rally at the end to be respectable. And unfortunately our Eagle on 18 got cut, but for a good reason, because and ended up being a dramatic moment on 18 as far as the tournament, with Dan McNeely, who had happy birthday to Dan, who just had his 50th birthday. And I happened to see him on the Saturday just before, but he and his partner Tyler Ep came down 18, one back of the father-daughter team of Chris Barber and Madison Barber, and they needed a birdie on that great 18th hole to tie, or an eagle to win outright. And Tyler missed his first one. Everybody was up on the patio looking down there, and Dan canned a 20-footer to break our heart for some possible skin money, but better for them to win outright, and to win
Dan the man.
So, yeah, he
nobody's golf swing is smoother looking than that guy's. It ages so well.
It does. It's really well. So
and you're young by my standards, Dan, so
believe me,
sweat it.
I'm sure he's going to be playing in the main division for quite some time.
Yeah.
But everybody who's in the senior division is probably quaking their boots, going, "Oh, this guy is going to, if he decides to, to play some of the senior stuff, he's going to go on a run." So, but yeah, it was a great field out there. It was good to see. There was 84 pros, which we're 178 members of the zone. So what a nice percentage for people to come out and play. And those guys, shooting 64, 8 under with the big eagle on 18 to kind of win it. It was a dramatic finish to it. So it was fun to see.
Exciting. So. Now, of course, Graham Gunn and Dany Lacombe won their third title.
Yeah.
That should shock me. That should shock me. Graham plays all the time and Dany doesn't play at all. So, like, honestly, I'm not kidding you. Dany Lacombe has been a pro for a lot of years, and
plays
he is like locked down, busy all the time. This might be one of the very few tournaments he plays every year, and he always plays well every time. It doesn't matter when we bring him in to fill a spot for the Ping Challenge Cup.
Oh yeah,
he wins his match. Like he's like just
he's so steady, and when
he's
we're talking about
being in play,
exactly,
he's not out of play.
No, that's exactly it. And they played so well together for so long, and like you said, that's their third title since 2020. They just know how to get it done. And Graham was putting really well, and Dany is obviously keeping him in play. So that sort of helps them. And yeah, it's tough as far as the format. I mean, you play well, you play poorly, you've got to make putts. I mean, it's just like any type of golf, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more the other side of it, especially in that best ball, you're kind of on your own as far as you're just doing your thing, playing normal golf or whatever, which means at least somebody in your pair has to score or
Yeah.
at least save something. But I think in scramble you're always generally going to go a little bit lower, but it's that modified Chapman that's in the middle where you basically both hit a drive, you switch and hit your partner's drive. So generally among the guys and girls, we just call it the sorry format.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
where because the problem is the other person has to hit your ball, your
Yeah.
drive, and then you make your choice beyond there and you play it out or whatever. So yeah, it becomes funny because you watch a team, the guys that were with us, all of a sudden they're on par 5 hole and they both drive it out of play,
Mm,
and you're like, uh-oh.
that's not
So
good.
no, it's not good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a great way to keep things interesting when you have these different team formats like this. In this particular year, there were just a couple other highlights, and then we got to take a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two
Okay.
all-lady teams,
Yep.
one husband-wife team with Scott and Tara McEnroy,
Yep.
one father-daughter team in Chris and Madison Barber, who almost won the main division,
Yep.
and one mixed team.
Yep.
So that was great this year to see that sort of diversity in the event, the uniqueness
Definitely.
of the event. It's a fun event.
Yep.
And the next time we talk about Eagle Creek, it will be as the host of the PGA Tour Canada's Commissionaires Ottawa Open, which is happening in a couple weeks, July 21st to the 27th.
Yep.
And to note, the Flagstick.com PGA of Ottawa Tour now looks ahead to the Ottawa Zone Pro Lady Championship on July 14th at Carleton.
You got it.
So,
Lots
all right.
happening.
So
July's
we're
a
gonna
busy
get
month.
we're gonna get out, take a
Yep.
break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about team formats, and we're going to get into our discussion about some interesting stuff in the public golf scene. So stay with us. You, of course, are listening to and watching the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. We'll be right back.
Unlock more forgiveness. Unlock more accuracy. Unlock more distance from more of the face. Introducing the new QI35 from TaylorMade.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. We were going to talk about team format stuff a little bit, but I think we're going to skip that for now, and maybe we'll pick that up next week, or if we're bored, we could pick it up later. I don't know. It's a good topic, and there's
Our show. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, we can do a whole show on something like that. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just to discuss its importance and whatnot. But we kind of want to get into our discussion about we'll call it the unwritten rules, sort of decoding poor behavior at public golf courses. And yes, we're saying public golf courses because generally speaking, this is not the kind of thing that you hear of or see as often at private facilities, and we can talk about why that might be as well.
Sure.
So let's get into that conversation and here on the back nine. And the back nine is currently presented by our good friends at Falcon Ridge Golf Club, with 27 holes of fun and challenging golf at great rates, and I do mean great rates. Falcon Ridge Golf Club is golf experience that you cannot avoid. And don't forget, Falcon Ridge has built the first TrackMan range facility in Eastern Ontario. TrackMan Range is all about exciting, easy-to-use features that provide the ultimate range experience for every golfer at every level. That's practice, games, and virtual golf. To book tee times or to book one of the TrackMan range bays, visit falconridgegolf.ca. On that note, what?
Okay, you
Sorry,
got a
no.
note. You say your note, and then I have a note related to the TrackMan stuff. So,
well, go ahead with your TrackMan.
okay, so here's another good reason to go and make use of it. So, just one of the golfers from the region, Carly Mayer from Lansdowne, just finished T5 yesterday at the North and South Championship at Pinehurst. And one of the restrictions they had down there, just because a lot of other things going on, is they weren't able to play a practice round on Pinehurst number 2, which, as you can imagine, pretty challenging.
I needed years in between to get my redemption after not getting a practice round.
Exactly. So in advance, she practiced on TrackMan and got to play the golf course, see the slopes of the greens, got to take her notes and do all that aspect, because obviously they use LiDAR to do that, and they have it down. And I've already heard that there's she was quite successful with that. And then I've already heard of a number of players getting ready to play the Canadian Men's Amateur, which will take place later this month at Royal Ottawa and Rivermead. But I've already heard of a few players playing Royal Ottawa on TrackMan to prepare, because it's going to give them some extra practice rounds. So there's another reason to head out to Falcon Ridge and try out the TrackMan range.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
That is pretty cool.
So, anyways, you had a note as well.
I just wanted to note that I am not acquiring a TrackMan, because I am acquiring a
launch monitor,
personal launch monitor system that I can use here in my hitting net here, and that I can take to the driving range. It's portable deal there. So I'm kind of excited about that. I haven't seen my numbers. I'm not that guy.
You don't have to be that guy, but
I'm not that guy where I care what my numbers are doing, but I'm curious because I do hit balls in the net. And when you hit balls into a net at home a lot, you're really not getting any feedback from that, because I've always kind of looked at it and said, well, if it spins right off the back of the net or it spins left off the back of the net, I'm probably hitting it right or left. And while there might be some truth to that because of the spin of the ball, the way it hits the net, that doesn't really tell me the whole story.
No,
so I'm kind of curious. The numbers that interest me the most are spin rates, because then that gives me an idea of maybe how I'm hitting it, but also maybe on whether the equipment that I'm using is not set up accordingly, or I don't have the right stuff. I also like to see my launch angle, which can directly relate to spin rate. Club head speed doesn't bother me a whole lot. Ball speed, if I'm looking to pick up distance, maybe is interesting to me if I'm hitting in a net. But I just like the idea. It's a little smaller. It's
any metrics can be helpful for sure, and there's so many great systems and stuff, and obviously we had a discussion about this as you were looking at different systems and so forth. But I think the other thing that it does as well, though, is it piques people's interest in maybe training or doing something. So anything that helps them be more interested and maybe get involved a little bit more with golf, and if that's the key to say, hey, maybe I'll practice a little bit more because I have some feedback, then it's great. So
you never know. You never know. Thank you, my good friend Lee Tamburano at the Canadian Golf Pro Shop.
Yeah,
online for
great spot to grab it,
hooking me up with such a device.
Yeah, and they have a bunch of different systems and stuff as well that they offer. So again, everybody has to kind of determine what they want and they need out of it. But Lee and the team there obviously have a number of different options to choose from. So yeah, it's a good place to go.
Okay. So let's get into this conversation.
Do you want me to frame it?
Yeah, why don't you frame this up, because this is kind of your topic based on some information that you've
here's the thing. I obviously spend a lot of time with other golf professionals, and you get to talk to lots of managers and pros and stuff as well, or whatever. But it just happened that recently I'm hearing of, we'll call it, more severe incidents. I mean, you're always hearing certain things about certain behavior on the golf course, poor behavior on a golf course. But it seems to have escalated based on some of the conversations that I'm having with some of these people, to the point of, police having to be called, lots of getting into some serious stuff as far as, staff assaults, verbally, physically, all sorts of different aspects of it. And I don't know. Again, you don't want to sit there and paint it with a brush and say it's one thing or the other, but I think it's worth discussing of maybe why are we seeing this, and why it's popping up, and how it can change. And you'll wonder it sometimes. It's like, some people are like, oh, shrink the game. Well, no, you don't want to shrink the game. So because some people are thinking, oh, it's just a growth problem. Well, growth can be part of it because you have new golfers and stuff in that. But also people are wondering, is there a cultural shift in attitudes where people are maybe not as maybe they're a little bit more selfish. Maybe they're not thinking of others as much, and that may have carried over onto the golf course. And we're generally seeing this, as you mentioned, off the top. Generally the golfer that you'll see at most private golf courses is somebody who's played the game for a while. They've been involved with the game.
Well, you're spending a lot of money, so you're probably more apt to be aware of etiquette and so on.
Yeah, so that's generally more the advanced golfer, somebody who's been around the game for the while. So, they probably learned a few more things. Now, we have a gateway when it comes to, public golf courses, going out and play, obviously for, you're just paying a green fee to go out and play. So generally that's where I'm hearing more of the issues more than anything. And someone had pointed something out to me. We were playing and at a golf course, and they pointed out the fact that there was more and more signs than ever at this golf course, that there was more signs talking about, not verbally abusing the staff, etiquette, dress codes, all sorts of different things. And, the fact that there was more signs sort of is an indicator of, obviously, this is a little bit more of a problem. Not everybody wants to talk about it because, again, everybody wants to talk about golf in the most positive light possible. But you can't deal with it if you don't talk about it. So this is kind of where we're at as far as having a discussion a little bit about what we're seeing in the golf course. And it might not necessarily, there's some things in here that are talking about, kind of etiquette of play and stuff like that. But I think the more serious stuff, kind of deserves a little bit more attention.
Okay. So let's talk about, before we talk about the root causes of what might be contributing to this, let's talk about what we're seeing. Let's talk about some examples of things that are, I'm going to call these things that are worse than they used to be. Okay. Yeah. So for instance,
or we perceive it anecdotally. Yeah. We don't have all the stats, but we certainly seem to be seeing more of it.
Seen enough to know, what the common things are. When we're defining poor behavior, what are some of those common examples? So off the top, something that's not physically or I'm not going to say it's not mentally abusive because sometimes it can be.
It can be.
But pace of play is something that has always been a problem, and continues to escalate as a problem. I feel like there may be
worse when there's more people on the golf course.
Yes, right? There may be stats out there that argue the fact that maybe, generally speaking, across the board, that pace of play has improved. My experience personally is that it hasn't improved, and that in fact I believe it's gotten worse. Now, not what pace of play is. It's not whether or not you play in 4.5 hours, 5 hours, 5.5 hours, or 6. That's the time it takes you to play. Pace of play means keeping up with the group ahead of you. Okay, so essentially, if you're playing and you're getting to the tee and you're not able to hit your shot yet, or you're just able to hit your shot, then the pace of play is probably pretty decent. So it doesn't matter at that point how long the round is for you. Your pace of play is related to the group in front of you. If the group in front of you is a hole ahead of you when you get to the tee and there's nobody on the green, then you're probably playing too slow. It's also possible the group in front of you is playing exceptionally fast. So that's when the length of time becomes an issue.
And we should say you can play poorly and still play fast.
Absolutely.
I think that's the perception that a lot of people think. Oh, well, it's all beginning golfers and stuff. There, not necessarily. That's not the
No,
case.
not at all.
We're not hanging that label on anyone, because again, we're not trying to paint everyone with a brush. We're trying to point out the culprits, not just people in general. As far as
taking an excessive number of practice swings, not being ready to hit, studying a putt too long.
The one that's getting me these days is the groups where I see them. They're like the daisy pickers in soccer. They were all of a sudden they're following their group all the way around, right? Like you see the foursome.
The 6-year-old soccer players.
Yeah, but you all of a sudden see these, 4 bros who all of a sudden follow each other around. I mean, I get it; it's a social experience or whatever, but you don't have to be either 3 guys or whatever. Don't have to be standing over top of their buddy while he plays the shot. You can leave them alone; they can go do their own thing. So.
The social aspect of it is when you're on the tee, as you're walking off the green, while you're walking to your ball, if you happen to be walking, but once you're walking and everybody's kind of you disperse.
Yeah, because chances are you're not in the same spot.
You're not all in the same place unless it's a scramble. So if you're all over, you walk down the fairway together, but then you disperse and you go to your own ball. And if your buddy's looking for his ball in the woods, well, you go ahead and hit your shot, and then you go over and help your buddy look for his ball. Right. Because now all these shots, this is part of the pace of play. This is part of being ready to hit, and this is part of keeping things moving along. So we don't want to focus too much on pace of play, but that's one of them.
But I think that blends into, talking about awareness. A lot of people don't have a lot of self-awareness of what's going on around them.
No.
So they're not conscious of, the fact that they're holding up other people or they're or doing whatever. So they get very self-absorbed. And I don't know if that's, again, lends itself to a discussion about, current culture and stuff like that, where people tend to be, a little bit more self-absorbed. But I think that plays a role when you're talking about something
Certainly
like that, where they're caring about their own group and they're not caring about the experience of everyone else.
Exactly.
And I think, that's the old small town, big town discussion, where a lot of people like small towns because people care about each other because they know each other.
Yeah. Well, that's where I always used to get ticked about music.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's that whole you're in your own group, you're in your own little world. So you don't see the music as being distracting because you guys don't find it distracting, or you people, you people meaning women, men, juniors. It's in your group. Hey, we're like a music, we're pumping on. Look at us go. We're loving our music, but you don't realize that your music can be heard 3 fairways over by people that don't want to hear your music.
Right.
And this is. So we'll get into that, but
that's all part of it.
Okay, so course care is another thing that's a big issue, and I see this constant, like tons. Is either you don't know how to, or you just don't give a crap, and and that's the part that ticks you off, is not fixing your divots or replacing your divots unless your cart or your push cart or the golf course specifically asks you to take a sand bucket with you. You replace your divot. You don't leave it. If you have a sand bucket, they prefer you to put the sand seed and fill in the hole rather than, because then it grows back, rather than the divot, which a lot of times doesn't grow back.
Yeah, different types of grass and stuff are to deal with that.
So if you're not replacing your divots because you're just not replacing your divots, then that's lazy. It's selfish. Not fixing ball marks on the green.
Same thing.
I fix. I'll fix mine, and then I'll fix 10 others, because and if there's that many on the green, then there's that many people that either aren't doing it because they're too damn lazy to go over and fix their ball mark, or they don't know how, and they just leave it.
Or the other option, and this is thing too, I've seen this over the years, golf balls that go flying over top of the green or wherever run through. Some people, because their ball's not on the green, they think they didn't make a ball mark or whatever.
Right.
It's just being awareness of it. And again, this will blend into the rest of the conversation or whatever. But, and we've mentioned it before, there's still an education component that still has to kind of take part here to take care of some of those things. Some people don't know. If you ask them about a ball mark, they don't even know what a ball mark is. So, but again, this is, we'll lead that into some of the discussion as far as the other things. But driving carts all over the place.
Oh my God.
Man, I have seen some cart driving this year, especially when there's signage that's out there. And I don't know whether people are, maybe staff don't have time to indicate it to people, or people don't know that it actually does damage. Maybe they think because they drive it in the fairway, it doesn't really do that much damage to the grass, but you all of a sudden see players, people driving up and they're on, they're literally parked 3 feet from the green, or going across the edge of a green. I've seen that this year, where you're just like looking, going, whoa, what's going on? Without it's a different, obviously some courses, allow obviously handicap flags and stuff, so players can go up closer and go beyond certain signs and stuff like that. But again, it's just like, okay, what are you doing to the experience of the other people, right, that are also playing the golf course? And that leads as well, talking about bunkers and stuff like that.
So anything that's course care. We've seen as of recently some things on the PGA Tour where Rory McIlroy took out a tee marker at the Open, U.S. Open. Brooks Koepka recently on the Live, which we don't, whatever, took out a tee marker. And I was more concerned about where the tee marker flew to until they showed me a reverse angle of it where he hit it and it flew into the barrier around the tee deck. But even at that, he didn't know where it was going to go.
No, it's
and
still
that's
close
just
to
like
a volunteer.
I get it. You hit a bad shot, you're mad, you want to thump your club on the ground. That's fine. I got no problem with that. I've seen somebody did that recently at a PGA Tour event as well. Fine, you want to bang your club, but you go whacking. Number one, that ain't your property, man.
No,
give your head a shake.
Hit your own foot.
You need to grow the heck up is what you need to do. I don't care if you're playing for millions of dollars. You're on Live, for one thing. You're already making millions, so whatever. But that is the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen, to abuse a golf course and the equipment on the golf course like that because you hit a bad shot. It's like, I'm sorry, man, grow up.
And in that case, you have to think, when you're talking about disrespecting not just the golf course, it's the people that put the work into the golf course. I mean, think about that. The people that put the effort to make that golf course as good as it is. And I think the not ranking bunkers thing, which is part of the course care and stuff as well, there is some carryover there from during COVID, when there was not rakes out there in a lot of cases. Some people just traditionally have not raking bunkers, and they just didn't realize they should be raking bunkers. But again, it's like, oh, how considerate are you of other people? I mean, I want things to be good for other people. I mean, I know, for an example, I mean, I was in a bunker on 12 at Eagle Creek, and I took my time as far as, because the thing is, when you're out on professional tours, for an example, and this is, it's obviously club pro stuff, but when you're on LPGA or PGA Tour, if you do not rake a bunker and make it good, and some player behind you gets into some spot that's, not raked properly, oh boy, I mean, you're going to get it from other people. And it's just a sign of respect for other people more than anything. And
I'm sorry, I do not buy the whole COVID crap about not having bunkers in, because you play during COVID that you're not used to raking bunkers. COVID's been long gone.
I get it, but that's when those people learned the game. So they've
been playing a lot since then. I'm sorry, don't buy it.
But it still doesn't mean they've learned. You got to remember,
they were lazy then and they're lazy now.
From an education standpoint, we've come to the game, learning stuff.
What did they think the rake is for?
There wasn't any rakes then. Who knows?
But there is now.
Right. But the problem is,
people in their group aren't.
The problem is the habits that people get into.
Yeah, well, I think they've had time to break. I think they've had time to break the habit. The year after COVID, 2 years after COVID, sure. This far after, I think the habit's gone.
No, I totally get that.
But they're the same people. They're the same people that don't fix their divots, and they're the same people that don't fix their ball marks.
Possibly. But the thing is like, again, that this is when we start talking about root causes and stuff like this. These are some of the issues that we get into. Now, we've got a few other ones here that are really important as far as
disrespecting others and disrespecting staff. So disrespecting others, we talked a little bit about the loud music.
Exactly.
Talk about yelling and swearing and hooting and hollering on it like it's some kind of party out there.
Have fun, but
don't look. But
there's a limit.
Hitting into groups, I mean, that's been going on for a long time. And some hitting into groups is hitting into groups on purpose. Not because you didn't think you could drive it that far. Right. It's by actually just doing it for the fun of it.
I think people just don't realize this is a missile. I mean, these are golf balls that are flying at 100 plus miles an hour. In some other cases, a drive, for an example, it could be going 160, 170 miles an hour. These can kill people. So
yes. And I would say the biggest one And we'll call this 1A, and we'll call the next one 1B.
Yeah.
1A, because I say that because the disrespecting others, the course care, a lot of that stuff can stem from what we'll call 1B. But
Sure.
1A is disrespect to staff.
Yeah. Big
The
time.
staff is out there to service you. They're there to help you move along. They're here to help you get food and beverage. They're there for you, to help you. Now, if the staff is disrespecting you, well, you take that up with the management. But if you're disrespecting the staff
Yeah.
through rude interactions, yelling at marshals, I'll get into the marshal thing in a second, because that's another level thing. Anyway, maintenance crews, they're out there maintaining the golf course, and some maintenance, they have to be out there while you're playing. They can't
Sure.
always just be there. They don't just show up at 3 o'clock in the morning and work until 7,
yeah.
and then when the golfers show up, the course is ready. They're trying to stay ahead of the golfers
Right.
for the most part. Sometimes they're out there doing some bunker work, and they're
exactly.
you have to respect that they're there. Now they're aware that you're there, and they're out doing their thing. They know you could potentially hit them with your ball. They're not expecting you to wait until they move out of the way. If they want to move out of the way, they will. If you are disrespecting them while they're out doing their job, and there's no reason for that, well, I've seen the disrespect of the beverage cart girls, like disrespect in the sense of like the sexist stuff, and
For
like
sure.
it can be like out of control.
Out of control. Yeah, I agree. And those interactions, it's like, again, where's the self-responsibility? I mean, I'm hearing stuff from people where people just show up, 25 minutes past their tee time. Oh, you can just work us in. And like people, like, seriously, you wouldn't do that for your medical appointment or whatever. So it's like, and then all of a sudden that person makes the mistake, and all of a sudden they blame the staff, right? So the thing is that you have to be responsible for yourself. It's not the other person that's making the issue. I hear people. I saw a group one time, they were in a course this year where they were out as a sixum, and I saw the staff member say to them, hey, you know what, I we can't have you as a six out there. And they're like, oh, well, there's nobody around us or whatever. And then they politely explain to them, well, if everyone else sees you as a six out there, then they're going to assume they're going to do it. And next thing you know, and then I heard the guy going off, and I'm like, well, you're the one who broke the rule. Why are you mad at the person for enforcing the rule?
Exactly.
And that's not acceptable.
No,
especially how they go about it doing
a lot of that. So now that leads into 1B.
Yes.
A lot of that behavior can stem, and I'm not saying that it does stem, because I don't want to paint everybody with the same brush. That it can stem a lot from alcohol and substance abuse on the golf course. Excessive drinking, smoking weed, whatever it is that they do out there. I get that when it comes to public play, non-competitive, fun with the buddies, charity tournaments, corporate tournaments, alcohol plays a big part in golf. Like it really does. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people. They go out, they get in the cart, they're having quite a few pops, they're driving around. That in itself is weird to me. Always has been.
I know.
Totally. We get charged with DUIs for driving motor vehicles on the road while under the influence of alcohol, but in golf we encourage it.
I know.
I don't get it, but
and we've had some tragic incidents, that have happened. I've heard of multiple ones over the years. And, I think it's the level of the alcohol that's out there. And I think for some people, and I mean, for some people, 5 hours out on a golf course has become an excuse just to go drinking rather than to play golf.
100%.
And that starts to be an issue. And then we're also seeing, you got to understand as well, these places are licensed facilities. So what's happening is, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to pay their rates or whatever like that. And, they're trying to sneak in their alcohol as much as they can.
Do.
Oh, they totally do.
And oddly, interestingly enough, our industry develops products to help the golfers do just that.
Well, yeah. So yeah.
No, and I'm not talking about our manufacturer. I'm not talking
I
about
know.
our club.
I
I'm
know.
talking about the third party guys out
Yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah,
getting the stuff, these weird
The
things
the
made that
fake
lets them,
the
it
fake
lets them
plastic
hold
golf gloves.
alcohol or
Yeah.
bring alcohol in hidden in their bags and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And like,
And here's that side of it as well. I've seen incidents. I remember one specifically last year where all of a sudden, somebody was at fault. They were obviously bringing in a cooler full of alcohol that, again, the reason the laws are there is just so the staff can regulate the
mhm.
alcohol. It's not so they have to, they have to be able to regulate it. But the issue was all of a sudden this group was in the wrong, adult males, probably over 50, this group that I saw specifically. And then, you've got a back shop staff member who's, 16, 17 years old, are basically saying, hey, you've got to bring it, back to the car. You can't have this here or whatever. And then, that group is getting mad at that teen that
Hmm.
they're enforcing the rule. It's like, well, you're the one breaking the rule, so why are you getting mad at the person that's just enforcing the rule? Like that's
So
and
this is
again,
herein lies the problem. And I know that this discussion, and I don't want to spend the whole time talking about alcohol, but
no, but it's a huge part of it.
but this is a to me this is a big deal.
Very much. It's going to be
It's
tragic in some situations.
and it has been in the
Yeah,
past.
totally.
Cart accidents, clubs
Hmm.
going flying, people hitting balls just randomly all over. I have been on the golf course where I've seen groups under the influence of alcohol randomly whacking tee shots in different directions off the tee
Yeah,
because they're just doing something funny with their buddies.
yeah,
Um, we are taking we're taking a group of people, letting them drink themselves silly, putting them in a motorized vehicle, putting them on rough terrain, not on a highway,
yeah,
on rough terrain with hills and bumps and bunkers and water traps, and saying, "Go to it."
yeah.
We're not going to. There is no. And I mean, like, again, I don't want golf courses to come after me and say, "What are you doing?
No.
You're
But the course is
advocating for no alcohol on the golf course." I said, "No,
no.
I'm
It's
not
not the case.
necessarily
No,
advocating for no
no.
alcohol on the golf course, though I'm
Yeah,
not a big fan of it. I'm not
yeah.
advocating for no alcohol on the golf course. What I'm saying is, what is the regulation? How do
Hmm.
you police it? How do you control it? Because it's obviously an issue
Hmm.
that only when it escalates to a point where someone actually does get hurt does
Yeah.
anybody care.
Sadly,
Otherwise, you don't care. You
hmm.
just want to sell your
Some.
not okay. Yeah, we're not painting everybody with the same brush, but how
Yeah,
do you control it?
yeah.
You
That's
can't
a big.
control it with the young girl that's working on the beverage cart, because normally she's like whatever the age is, 18, 19, 20 years old, and you got out there with 50, 60-year-old men who just want to drink.
Mhm.
And how do you control that?
Well,
Okay, so sorry, before we go any
yeah,
further, we got about 10 minutes before we're going to cut. Now, either we're going to
sure.
go to a third section on this,
No.
or we're
I think
just
I think we can. I think we can skip through a bunch of stuff here. I mean, I've got a lot of notes here, but there's not. I think we've talked a lot about some of the issues and stuff like that. But I think
what are
it's
the causes?
well, causes are obviously part of it. We have a multiple different things, but I think it's causes and solutions. I mean, causes. I mean, we're going to take some swings here and guess and start to look at a couple different things. And again, this is not to say that it's a not a it's not a new phenomenon. It just seems to be increasing for a number of particular reasons. And I think it's a growing issue that we're hearing more and more within the industry. And then again, what do we blame it on? But how do we deal with it as we go forward as an
Well,
industry?
I'd like to think that the way we deal with it is through education, but at the
Hmm.
same time, um, if if I'm trying to
We don't
get the
the,
right
the,
example,
the I think
they're not going to people. The majority of golfers who just go out to bang it around with their
casual
buddies,
golfer,
the
yeah.
casual golfer, they're not
Yeah.
going to take a course in how
Oh no,
in
no, no,
prop,
no, no,
so they're
no,
not going to listen. So you
no.
can put it out there and say rake your bunkers, but they're still
Yeah,
not likely going to listen. They're going to do what they want to do. So
yeah.
education is not necessarily education for those that want to learn.
Mm,
Yes, education for those that don't care. You're just putting it out there and wasting your time because they're not going to listen anyway. So
No.
is it better policing? Maybe, but I personally have a problem with marshals. I don't think golf courses need marshals. I really don't. I've been to a lot of golf courses where the marshals are very much like what they try to call them, players' assistants now, where those marshals, those players' assistants are very helpful, very friendly, very useful. But the majority of golf courses that I've been at over my career, which is a long time in this industry, majority of marshals are just driving around, looking for balls. And
so let's put it this way. I'm not anti-marshal. I'm proper marshal. How's that? As far as you need more staff to be able to deal with it, for sure, because you can't just deal with it from the pro shop. Having been behind that counter, you only have a limited interaction. So, I think part of it is like it's almost like a cultural change, because again, as you said, players that are finding out and educating them, you don't control the stream of their education, because we have poor behavior examples that we see on social media now, whether it's carts going wild and jumping all over the place and people just doing behaviors. I think it's just a bad trend that has happened, that, course by course, they have to control that behavior. I mean, one golf course can't change the industry, but they can change what they do at their golf course. And I think part of the problem for some of the courses is that, maybe they didn't do well for a long time. And then now all of a sudden it's like, there's a lot more golfers that are out there or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, here's a windfall of new golfers coming out here. We're sort of afraid to kind of, limit them a little bit. Well, maybe we're getting to the other end of that, where they're like going, okay, we are busy. We now have new issues to deal with. It's not the case if we have a lack of golfers. We have a wealth of golfers, but we're going to have to shape what happens at our golf course slightly differently. And how does that work out?
So I'll tell you something, and this is because I'm looking at the notes. We got about maybe 5 minutes here. We got to save ourselves a few minutes to wrap up.
We don't have to read everything. So,
but when we mentioned about one of the things on the list here is like having sort of education for the marshals. You hire your marshals, or however you do your marshals. You have your marshal team, and you bring them in, you talk to them. Okay, so I'm just going to give an example of, I had a conversation with a golf course manager, golf course operator, about how they handled their marshals, because the marshal thing has become a really big deal with me because of how poorly I've been watching how marshals carry themselves on golf courses. So I had a conversation with an operator at their golf course about how they handle the marshals. And they told me about their, what they do about, you mentioned about briefings. They had their marshal meeting and how they explained how they want the course marshaled, what their interactions should be like, what they're looking for out there, and so on and so forth. And I said, that's great. And how do you, and then we do this on a weekly basis where we have our, this is what we're doing on the course this week. This is great. Okay, this sounds awesome. But then from experience on the same golf course,
they didn't implement it.
They didn't implement any of it.
Yeah.
So it was as bad as any course marshaling situation. Nothing but driving around, driving up on groups, hovering around groups that there's no reason to hover around, looking for golf balls in the woods, the typical stereotypical marshal thing, which is not indicative of all marshals, but it's the stereotypical marshal behavior. So you had your meetings, you had your preseason meetings, you have your pre-round briefings of the week, and then marshals go out and do exactly what we expect marshals to do. And so what's the point? If you're educating your marshals, you're telling them what to do, they don't go out and do it. So who's checking up on these things? Who's making sure that this is right?
I think that comes down to the facility then, is like, what's the culture that we want?
But it seems like the facility is doing what they're want to do, but
obviously they're not.
It's like me having a staff meeting and telling all my staff, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do this. And then everybody goes out and does whatever they want. Well, then how do I monitor what they're doing to the point where do you have to have a marshal?
Sure, why not? I mean,
the thing, do you have to, as a manager, have to drive around and make sure the marshals are doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah. I mean, if this is what you want, you can't sit there. Here's the thing: a golf course cannot complain about what they see out on their golf course if they're not doing anything to deal with it. Right? You can't complain about behavior or what's out there, because what happens is that if you're doing nothing to change it, then you're just as responsible for it, right? I mean, you're going to get what you get. So, when we look at golfers and stuff that are out there, and what we're going to do as we go into it, yes, there's unlearned behaviors, there's like just trends that tend to happen with the golfers. There's a lot of stuff where they're new golfers and they haven't learned a lot of things. Look, we're going to have to do a lot more work. If we want to retain these golfers, we're going to have to do more work to make it look like, and I'm not saying it's supposed to be, no fun out there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just going to have to be a different experience, and we're going to have to deal with it. So,
okay. We're going to have to finish this conversation another time, because obviously there's lots of stuff to keep talking about.
Sure.
So before we get out, flagstick.com shootout. This is the last week to sign up. I got about 5 or 6 spots that I want to fill before the tournament to bring us up to a good number. It's going to be a great weekend. So at Smuggler's Glen. So get over to flagstick.com and get yourself signed up now. Thanks to our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Falcon Ridge Golf Club, and our presenting sponsor, TaylorMade Golf, introducing the all-new QI35 drivers, TaylorMade Speed, Max Forgiveness, and a new level of fitting to give you more distance from more of the face. Get QI35 Fit today. Unlock your game at taylormadegolf.ca. Well, hope you're watching, enjoying what you're listening to and watching. Be sure to follow us across all social media networks, Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. Subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And get on over to YouTube. Subscribe to us there. Like us, click the notification bell. And flagstick.com is loaded with more amazing golf content delivered every single day. And be sure to subscribe to Flagstick Digest, our newsletter, 3 times a week. Everything in your inbox. You will love it. But as always, we do appreciate you tuning in. Until next week, I'm Jeff Botter.
Scott McLeod.
Always remember, go for the stick.